I'm getting a front row seat to the racing that no one else gets. And that is my favorite part about this. And that's where, like, if I was just a moto guy, like, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, wow, a lot of bikers, a lot of guys in spandex, cool. And, I get to ride my dirt bike, sweet. But being out front for Barry, like the 62 mile, and leading that is probably my favorite bike nerd thing. I'm getting to see all the attacks, the chases, like, I'm getting to watch all that real time. And it's just super cool to be able to see that, because everyone sees the start, they might catch somewhere in the middle of the race, and then they get to see the finish. And I want to be like, yeah, but you guys missed the middle 56 miles. Like you should have seen it.
From KOM Cycling and Michigan Midpack Media, welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, the podcast that covers the cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Michigan Midpack. I am your host, Trevor, and on this episode, lead and sweep moto driver Robbie Koets. Since 2006, Robbie has been a staple at many of my favorite Michigan races, Iceman, Barry, Roubaix, coast to coast, but not on a bicycle, but rather leading or sweeping on his motorcycle. I met Robbie a few years ago, and I instantly knew that his unique perspective of these different races, they had to be shared on the podcast, and I'm pumped that we found some time to sit down together and record this conversation. After like maybe an hour or so nerding out over music, we finally get into some really fun and interesting details of what it takes to, efficiently and safely accomplish this important job of moto support. If you are from Michigan, I think you'll really enjoy hearing about his role at many of these the largest events in the area. And if you're listening to this and you're not from Michigan, I still think it's a pretty cool story and conversation, and 100% relatable wherever you are in the country. Because chances are there's someone just like Robbie dressed in safety yellow looking out for you at one of your favorite races on a motorcycle. So let's jump right in. The fastest and slowest person on two wheels, Mr. Robbie Koets. Okay, enough of the nerdy music talk. I felt like we might get into some of that, but we're not here to talk about music.
Bicycles.
We could have we could start a music podcast. Why don't we do that?
The offshoot.
It wouldn't be Dirty Chain. It'd be like Rusty Strings.
Rusty Strings.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Robbie, welcome to East Lansing. Thanks for making the trip over.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This has been a
couple years
in the making. The stars aligned.
Well, it was an Iceman, I think, a couple years ago, and I was at the KOM booth, and you kind of came up. I think I had some Dirty Chain stuff out, and I think you introduced yourself to me. You're like, yeah, I listen to the podcast, and then you said, oh, I'm the guy on the motorcycle that sweeps or leads out, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, I knew there had to be like a personality to that, but I didn't. And so, I mean, we chatted a little bit. I'm like, we gotta lay this down on a podcast. I want to hear all the stories. But that was, and then since then, I mean, I think we've run into each other at races here and there. And
yeah, that's how I introduce myself in this circle. It's like, hey, I'm Robbie. I'm the moto guy. And they're like, oh, cool. And the first question I get is, how do I get that job? And my answer is always the same. You just got to know the right people. So that's...
Well, I mean, why don't we start there? How do you get that job?
The year was 2005. You're like, hey, I know this is digital recording. I don't have that much space. No,
don't you have to pick your wife up at 3?
At 3
we don't even have
I got to pick her up. So, no, 2005, Iceman. 2005, I was standing at Broomhead Road watching one of my friend's dads cross, and we have a family cabin just about 3 miles south of where Iceman crosses Broomhead just off of Broomhead.
Okay.
So just figured, we'll drive up there, watch him cross Broomhead and whatever, and that's that. So I'm standing there talking with one of the race officials, and they're like, yeah, normally we got a guy on a motorcycle that comes through here, but I guess he couldn't do it this year. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I've grown up riding my dirt bike up here my whole life. I know a lot of these trails, and I know like how to get places other people don't quicker and this and that. So I was like, oh, well, how would I get that job? And they're like, just email info@Iceman. Like, all right, cool. So, the next summer, next fall, I email info@Iceman. Somebody calls me and they're like, hey, call this guy. It's Dick Burleson. And then they go, yeah, it's that Dick Burleson. I'm like, okay. And I knew the name and I looked it up. Yeah, he's a AMA motocross champion, seven-time champion from
Holy
the
cow.
late 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's kind of a big deal in the dirt bike world. So I was like, okay. So I called Dick, and he's like, what kind of bike do you got? KTM 300 2-stroke. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, can't be out front with that 2-stroke, so we'll put you in sweep. Because it's 2-strokes are just all smoky and smelly. And
okay.
you guys don't want that in front of you. So so I showed up.
So this was like the very next year.
It was an 06.
06 Iceman. They just kind of like threw you in, and
they were like, "We'll just go with the sweep guys, get the feel for it." All right. So I show up not knowing what to expect, other than like, "Oh, well, I'm okay at riding dirt bikes, and I know where I'm at." And the guys I rode with were 10 times more experienced and better than me. And I was like, I just remember my goggles fogging up. I couldn't feel my hands because it was so cold. Everything was frozen. I was so cold. And
were you sweeping the age
sweeping
groups?
the pros?
Oh, the pros. Okay.
Yeah, sweeping the pros.
Okay.
And by the time I got done, I was like, that was awesome, and I want to do it again. And that was it was the coldest I'd ever been on a dirt bike, though. But it was super cool, and I was hooked. So, it was just kind of like, all right, next year you're in. Yep. And I just kept showing up, and that was 06 and on. And I think I started leading in 2021 was my first lead on Iceman.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
yeah,
recently then.
Yeah. Because I had a 2-stroke for so long, then I got a 4-stroke, the big Honda. And from there on, it's like, okay, well now we don't mind you being out in front of the riders. So, but even before that, I had, led Barry and stuff like that. And I started getting these other gigs, because after sweeping Iceman so much, just kind of meet more people.
Sure.
And I got into cycling myself probably around 2009, 10.
So that was my next question.
Yeah.
Like, before this, you weren't into cycling at all, or you didn't ride, or you just...
I mean, I could ride a bike. I could ride a bike. No, yeah.
But you weren't
I wasn't in it. I
Yeah.
didn't own Lycra until like 2009. I'll say that. So, so around 2009, I got into mountain biking and started riding my bike to Western to school,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And I ride dirt bikes, so this is just like cheaper dirt biking. Boy, was I wrong. So you can spend just as much. So once I got into mountain biking and racing more with mountain bikes from like 2009, 10 until whatever, 18, 19, it just really helped the moto side of it because I was invested in the races more because like I knew the people, I knew the racers, I knew how big of a deal it was, and I understood the courses, I understood the mentality of what the racers are doing and thinking, and how most of them want me there. And at the same time, they want me to, stay out of the way. But It's like, it's an important job, but stay out of the way. We need you, but not too close, but not too far, So
yeah, I was wondering like how much of a crossover there is with like moto lead out motos or whatever riders that are also cyclists or also ride.
Yeah, a lot of us in some way or another have ridden bikes competitively. So my buddy Ward,
like mountain
mountain bikes,
yeah, bicycles.
Yeah, yep. So like my buddy Ward, that he leads the Iceman pros mainly. He does that, and he's the one that's been doing this longer than I have and roped me into all this, really, because I met him the first year and known him since then. But yeah, he was on, let's see, I can't screw this up. He was on the Nuke Proof downhill team.
Whoa.
In the 90s.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he's been like, out west, Australia, New Zealand, like all that stuff. And if I get this wrong, then he'll correct me. But yeah, no, he's like super legit on Nuke Proof's 90s downhill mountain bike team.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so he does that. I don't have anything that cool. I just local races, but enough to appreciate it. I always say I raced the 2014 Iceman. That was my only year. I took off of Moto, and that was the Mudman year.
Oh yeah.
What a horrible mistake that was. I bet you I was 3 to 4 miles in out of Kalkaska, and it was that hello darkness, my old friend, like that started playing in my head, and I'm just like, I've made a huge mistake. And a broken chain, 3 miles of walking, and just numb everything. I was like, I'm going back to the Moto next year.
Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, I knew you rode, so I wasn't sure if there is part of you that wishes that you could experience more of some of these races on a bike, not a motorbike.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I miss that on some of them, but at the same time, I'm getting a front row seat to the racing that no one else gets, and that is my favorite part about this. And that's where, like, if I was just a moto guy, like, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, wow, a lot of bikers, a lot of guys in spandex, cool. And, I get to ride my dirt bike, sweet. But being out front for Barry, like the 62 mile, and leading that is probably my favorite bike nerd thing, because I'm getting to see all the attacks, the chases, like I'm getting to watch all that real time. And it's just super cool to be able to see that, because everyone sees the start, they might catch somewhere in the middle of the race, and then they get to see the finish. And I want to be like, yeah, but you guys missed the middle 56 miles. Like you should have seen it.
So how much are you, as you're riding, you have to keep a certain distance.
Yeah.
But obviously it sounds like you are paying attention to the front group enough that you can see attacks, see this. Yeah. I mean, so that requires a lot of turning around, watching them as you're watching the road, as you're keeping distance. So what are those things that you're checking off to make sure that you are doing your job as a lead out moto correctly?
Yeah. Step one is safety. So safety for the riders. So why am I out there? Okay, well, I want to give a heads up to any cars coming at us, because all these races, the roads are open. So I want to be visible, create some kind of visibility for cars coming at us, because we're all racers. We don't always ride two abreast, especially in a race. Yep. And those back roads, you're not expecting a lot of traffic. Sure. So, and that traffic's not expecting a 5,000 person bike race coming at them on a Saturday morning. So, so that's always step one, is just safety, creating something that's more visible than the herd of cyclists behind me, because by the time they see them, it might be too late. So I'm out there. I always say wearing my safety Steve, my bright yellow high vis, and I'm talking about Barry. So,
sure.
And then intersections. So a lot of them are manned by the sheriff deputies or volunteers, just giving them a heads up, because once again, by the time that front group comes through, for them to see them and then start flagging traffic, that's not a lot of time. So I'll roll up and say, hey, they're 30 seconds behind me, or, if it's Sager Road, I don't want that's like, I don't want them to catch me in there. And at the same time, little offshoot here, it's like, oh, well, you must be able to fly through there. And it's like, I can fly through there like Iceman. Like, I can fly through that single track if you want me to. I won't get invited back if I do, because every berm's going to be torn up. So it's like, it's a fine balance. But so, I'll say like, oh, they're 30 seconds behind me, or they're 3 minutes behind me, But yeah, keeping out front enough to give the course workers a heads up that, hey, they're coming. Hey, close the intersection. They're coming through. But still close enough that I'm not, out of sight completely all the time.
Yeah.
Because those lead guys, I know they're in the zone. I'm sure they have the GPS on their computer, but at the same time, they're not paying attention.
Sure.
And so even just as I use myself as the confidence marker. So they turn a corner and they see the nerd on the moto in the yellow vest, and they're like, okay, yep, keep going, chasing him.
Right way. Yep.
Yeah. So that, like Iceman, I've had a couple of the leaders at the finish. They'd be like, man, I could hear you. He's like, your engine kept me pushing. He's like, I just was like, I'm going to catch that guy. I'm going to catch that guy. And I'm like, you very well might. One of these years in the single track, you might catch me. And this year was one of those maybes. So
yeah, because you let out wave 1 this year, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's a blast. A lot of my friends are in that, like Dallas DeYoung, Wes, Cody. I'm going to forget everyone else and leave someone else out. But yeah, like so many friends in that. You, right? You were wave 1,
no,
right?
I was wave 2.
Wave 2?
Yeah,
that was it. So, but it's just fun because I know, I'm like, like there's a good chance somebody I know would be the one catching me, like somewhere in the single track, because like, yeah, you can ride it fast, but you can't destroy the trail. So
yeah,
it's all a nice balance of riding efficiently and cleanly. So
yeah, so I was gonna ask you about that first time you let out Iceman. You said the first time you swept, you kind of learned some things maybe, or it was like the coldest, or but it got you hooked. But that first time you let out in 2021, was it the pros or wave?
It would have been wave 1.
Wave
again.
1,
Yep.
yeah. Was that I mean, you had done some lead out work before that, but not Iceman.
Not single track.
Not single track.
You can't. So you guys don't want me right off your front wheel, because that's not fun. And the last thing I want to do is interfere with the race.
Yeah.
So it was, I joke, but I'm probably not too far off the truth when I was like, I probably got like 4 to 5 minutes ahead of him at some point, just because I was like so nervous about getting caught. So I probably like shot off the front, and then I'd get to like, Dockery Road or something. I'd just like sit there and wait. And I'm like, okay, it's been 3 minutes. Okay. So maybe don't put this much space on him next time, but, it's a balance. But yeah, the first time getting through there, it was just like, okay, the first part of the race, I give him a lot of space. And then once Broomhead hits, I let him reel me in just a little bit. And then once we get over across Williamsburg into Vasa, it's more open, so I can let them reel me in, and then I'm much closer to them, and leading them, make sure we're not making any mistakes, any wrong turns. The other big thing that I've done with that is I share my location on my phone with the announcers, and race directors.
Yeah.
So like Acker's got my location during Barry and Coast to Coast. Sarah, the finish line announcer, and Jill, the start line announcer, they both had my location this year for Iceman. Just so they can track, I can be like, hey, gives you something to talk about and some kind of heads up of where I'm at.
Sure.
So that's been a cool trick to use too, with that. But, just maintaining the right distance.
Yeah.
So, staying out of their way.
What is the right? You talk about minutes for like just for the single track, but like for a Barry or something like that.
Barry is like, seconds. Like I'm right there.
Yeah.
So, and like the year they did the tie with Alexi, because there's a rider down at the finish, injured. And it was still the downhill finish into Hastings. And I come around that corner, and that's, it's one of the coolest finishes because it's just flat out. They're flying. full gas. So I'm on the moto, and I got knobby tires for that.
Yep.
So like I'm taking it easy on the pavement. I come around that last corner, and I know these guys are just hitting the gas. And I come around that last corner, and I see Acker's just out there just waving me off, me off, and I'm like, holy smoke! So I did the only thing I could think of, which was like, okay, hug the right gate, just stay right next to the barrier, and I just tucked my elbows in and just coasted. And I knew the racers would figure it out,
get around you.
And they shot around me, but I mean, that was one of the more stressful ones I had.
Holy moly, yeah.
Just because like the speed that they were doing, probably 35, 40.
I'm sure, yeah.
So they flew past me. But yeah, something like that. It was just like my one rule is safety. My next rule is stay out of the way, don't interfere with the race. And I crossed the finish line. I rode right up to the guys and I said, great race. I am so sorry if I caused anything. Mm-hmm. And Alexi, being Alexi, was just like, no, man. He goes, you did the absolute right thing. He's like, you're great. Just super positive and always nice. And so I was like, okay, if I did, I'm sorry. But, it's stuff like that out of our control.
Speaking of finish lines, though, did you see video this year from Schwamigan?
Yes.
And it's Alexi won, but like the moto seemed like right there. And it's like, what do you do? Get like further away. It seemed like from the perspective, it looked like the moto was too close for the finish.
Pardon me for Monday morning quarterbacking this, Trevor, but yeah, I saw that, and because the photo title is like Alexi wins, and I'm like, where? And because I couldn't even see him around the moto.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where was it? And yeah, talking to a couple people, I guess, like they came out of that last woods section, and the guy just didn't hit the gas and just kind of stayed right there. And it's like, oh no, you don't do that. Like, don't do that. Like that's not good. So yeah, that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah. I mean, that you'll always hear each year for the Tour de France, there'll be
somebody that misses a turn,
or like the motos will get in the way. I mean, I think this year it was like on a climb.
Yeah.
Like someone tried to attack, like Pogačar tried to attack, and the moto was right there. But that had to do with the people. But there's always like something about like on the descents, the motos aren't going fast enough, and the lead guys are actually getting a huge advantage. If they're trying to break away on a descent, and you can still be, I don't know, like 15 meters off of the
and still
get some aerodynamic benefit.
Moment this year, up in Leelanau County, I was riding, and Garrett Genema, broke off the front, got reeled in, broke off the front again, and thank goodness I had known that race had a little bit more pavement, so I swapped to just like dual sport tires for my knobbies. Glad I did, because I'm out with Garrett and just cruising down this hill, and there's curves, and he was almost catching me, and I'm looking down, and I'm at 45 miles an hour going downhill through curves, and and we finished, and we were joking with each other, and he was just like, man, he's like, I saw your bike, and he goes, man, to be able to tuck behind that. And I go, yep. And I said, but, and he finished my sentence. He goes, but we're better than that. And I said, exactly. I said, that's, you got to have some morals out there and ethics. I'm like, I want that kid to win. I like him. So, but yeah, it's like, just, we were cruising. I was like, do you know how fast we were going? He's like, about as fast as we can. I was like, yeah, 45, so downhill. I'm like, if you were going to go faster than that, I was going to let you pass me. So I was out at that. But,
do you have, I hope so. Do you have any like terrible moments where you thought, oh no, I messed something up, or I won't be able to finish this because of something?
I'm still here, so I haven't had any that bad.
Okay.
And I'm still employed by most of these races, so I haven't yet.
I guess any that you would be willing to to share maybe there's some that you don't want to share, so you can keep getting these jobs.
No, the fun one is Barry Roubaix. There's one section, and I've been caught daydreaming like 4 years of riding lead of Barry, and I bet 2 or 3 of those years, I can't even remember what part of the road is in. It's beautiful. It's a lovely, lovely stretch of road. And I think I'm like, I got, 30 seconds to a minute on them. Yeah. I'm looking around. I guess it's just a little bit downhill through some curves. And multiple times I've turned around and there's a guy with just a big grin on his face, like 10 feet off my fender. And I'm just like, oh, shoot. And they've caught me a couple times there. So there's that. But
you probably can't hear them coming up on you either,
not
right?
at all.
Because your bike's loud enough.
Free hubs are loud. They're not that loud. So, so that's, and once it happened like 2 years in a row, I'm just like, seriously? Like, okay, all right. Put a note on the map. Like, hey, buddy, you're not going as fast as you think right here. So that one, I've yet to make a wrong turn leading a race. That's my biggest fear.
Oh, I'm sure.
Not biggest, but
How are you navigating as you're doing it?
Great question. Gaia, the mapping app.
Okay.
If they want to give me a free subscription, I'm willing to take it. Not above that. No,
you're overestimating the power of this podcast.
Exactly.
I don't have that kind of reach.
Hey, you got a hashtag influencer here.
Yeah.
So, no, I use Gaia mapping software, and I just ask for a GPX file of the race from somebody. And it's funny because sometimes like the official GPX isn't that great. So that's where I'm glad that I know friends that race and ride and pre-ride.
Yeah.
And like my buddy Chad up in Traverse City, he's raced Iceman every single year.
Every single year, yeah.
And I used his GPX file this year for Iceman because I was like, oh, this is more accurate than the one they posted. So I'm gonna use Chad's. So I just use that and have it mounted on my handlebars. Made sure that I can charge my phone on my bike too. That's a must-have to keep my screen on the whole time.
Yeah, so, especially for like coast to coast or something. Coast to
coast, yeah. Let's talk about that. Okay. So coast to coast sweep. So Mark Van Tongeren, he asked me to sweep coast to coast. However 4 years ago, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I started looking into what that meant, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna start at 9:30 p.m. at the earliest, and I'm gonna finish around 2:30 in the morning.
9:30 a.m.
So I sweep the checkpoint 3 to the finish.
Okay, got it.
So there's trucks and
yep.
So pretty much after like Cabernet area, Cadillac area, it goes into North Pine River Road.
Yeah,
and
which is rough.
It's that
super rough,
gnarly 2-track.
It's very sandy.
Yep.
But then do you hit Big M a little bit through there? And
I was able to 1 year, and then the Forest Service said no motos in Big M.
Okay.
Once again, I used to lead. We'd lead and sweep Lumberjack, and that was an absolute blast.
But now you can't do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was thinking, I've only done Lumberjack this year was my first time, but I was like, I didn't remember. Well, was there a moto right away on the road this year?
I don't think there was this year.
Okay, so I'm remembering correctly. There's no moto.
Because we used to do, Ward and I would do that one, and we'd get up at 4:30 in the morning because we wanted to pre-ride it in the morning before the 7:30 a.m. start or whatever it was, because arrows have been known to change and get ripped off the night before. So we'd ride it, start out, pitch black with just our lights and headlamps and stuff, which is awesome. And it's a 33-mile loop. So around mile 25, the sun starts coming up finally. So just super cool to ride that into the sunrise and then get to the start, lead out wave 1. We lead them down the pavement into the first 2-track. And then once we get back to Big M, we peel off and let them, start the loop.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha. So just one loop, the first loop, I guess. Yeah.
So we'd do that, and then we'd sweep at the end of the day. And that's one where it's like when we couldn't do that anymore, it was like, oh, what are they going to do? Like, that's where I really feel bad for that because like motos are really efficient in that kind of coursework.
Sure. Yeah.
So like, oh, we'll get an e-bike. And it's like, yeah, that's good. It's better than not, but it's just more easy with some of these with the moto. So, and we're not out there to try and rip it up and be like, oh yeah, we get to rip up mountain bike trail. Cause again, if we did that, I wouldn't be here. I would have been fired my first year. So it's like, it's just fun to be out there and know that we're helping and be a part of it and involved.
So you were sweeping for coast to coast then that first time from checkpoint 3 to the finish. So
I had my buddy Lance helping me with that. And I have for those that don't know, I drive a 2003 Chevy Astrovan, all-wheel drive. So
sweet, man.
Best vehicle ever built. And so I'd have Lance in the chase van. And so he'd just meet me every, wherever the trucks couldn't get and the moto would be. So he'd just keep checking on me and we just kind of leapfrog to the finish until we could just throw the bike on the back of the van and both drive there. But that first time, it gets very dark. It gets very lonely out there. And I'm like, oh man, I'm out here a ways. And then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, these cyclists, like there's no one, out here watching out for them except me at this point. Yeah. So it's like, oh, and that kind of, switches my whole, outlook on it. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm out here for them. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's dark and we're in the middle of the Manistee National Forest and there's no one around for 20 miles. And, some cyclists, I've rolled into Big M before, behind a cyclist that their lights burned out. So I have these, frickin' football field lights on my moto. And I'm just like, hey, I'll just ride behind you. Just ride in my light. We'll get you there. So, just get them out there. So, which that brings up, sweeping people. And that's like, Iceman is a good example of that. This year we had a kid, one of the pros, Josh was his name. He's super, super strong and just had bad luck. His rear derailleur jammed up, broke 6 spokes. His rear wheel couldn't spin and just done. So, real bummer. So when I found him, I was like, we were right in the middle of Water Bottle Bypass.
Okay.
So he's, 2 miles, mostly uphill, back to Dockery, and more miles up to make it stick to Guernsey Lake Road. So I was like, all right, this is how we're going to get you out of here. I was like, I'm going to go up and the old Iceman trail from last year, because when they logged Make It Stick, they rerouted it. Yeah. I was like, I know where the old trail is. I'm going to put a big log in the trail. When you see that log, turn left. That's going to take you to Guernsey Lake Road. And, he had cell phone service and I got his number and his all that. And he texted me like 40 minutes later and he's like, man, thank you. I got out. I made it out of the woods. Thanks for the course mark.
What is your responsibility as a sweeper though? Because you can't it's not the broom wagon. You can't get a bunch of you
toss them on.
Yeah. Exactly. So as a sweeper, just basically, if they're hurt, letting someone else know or, or what all are you responsible for?
Yeah. The main thing I always just joke about, I'm like, I just pick up the bodies left out on the course at the end. But no, when I'm out there, you run into somebody, it's like, okay, step 1's communication. So their phone might be dead. They might not have service. So I need at least one way to get a hold of somebody to come get them. If they're healthy, great. Time, whatever. We can take time out there. And that's why Iceman, we have usually 4 sweep motos. So if someone does have to stay with somebody, we leave 2 guys with them. And then the next 2 guys can keep going to keep the sweep going. Sure. So the course workers aren't left out there for 3 hours just waiting for us to get one guy off.
Yeah.
So we use it that way. But yeah, with coast to coast sweeping for that, I have a emergency personal locator beacon that I used to use when I'd sail, do Chicago Mac races on big sailboats. So, so I have one of those, and that's I call it my come get me button. So I've thankfully never had to use it, but that's you're out there, you're on Pine River Road, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're in the middle of Iceman, whatever, and someone's actually injured, and boom, call the 911's great, but you hit that button and it's getting through to local search and rescue, and it's on a certain frequency to contact fire department, search and rescue people. So
But
that's
you've never had to use it.
never had to use it. Yeah. And I hope I don't have to. So I keep a little medical kit on me. That started with the first year I did coast to coast, I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm just a guy on a dirt bike. So I wanted to be a little more prepared. So I actually signed up for like a first aid and CPR class.
Well, I was just going to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no medical training, but
that's not a requirement though.
Not at all. No,
but come to think about it, it probably should be for a sweeper, like to have just a very basic idea.
And that's what I was thinking. Cause I was like, this is such like just a typical volunteer position, and I was like, I don't want it to be just, oh, it's a guy on a dirt bike. Like that doesn't help.
You're right.
Then it's just a guy getting a fun ride on a dirt bike. So I was like, I want to actually show some value. So first aid, CPR, got all that, training done. And then I have a friend, my buddy Kyle out in Utah. He works for search and rescue out there. And so I asked him, hey, and he's a big cyclist too. His wife works for Envy. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So little company. But I was like, hey, what do I do? And he's like, okay, get this first aid kit. He goes, you got a way to contact people? I'm like, yep. The little beacon. He goes, great. He goes, other than that, he goes, get a tourniquet. He goes, it's a bike race. He goes, what are they going to do? He goes, you're going to get, a cardiac event. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a broken collarbone. He goes, no one's going to die from a broken collarbone. You're just going to sit there with them and, get help. He goes, and maybe, in a mountain bike race, they might, hit a tree, get impaled or something. That's where you have the tourniquet.
Yeah.
He's like, the biggest thing is communication. He goes, just be able to reach somebody that can come and help. So that's how I think about it. And that's how I built my little, my fanny pack or my backpack, whatever I have with my emergency stuff in it.
Sure.
So, I keep toying with like, I want to get like my medical first responder or something like that. But, I still get a little I get a little lightheaded when I give blood. So,
well, I mean, it is like think about like coast to coast and just being out in the middle of nowhere. Some of these like really long endurance races, but knowing that there's someone that might have, I don't know. I'm assuming those like all those riders probably ride with a cell phone, but say you get a head injury or you're knocked out, then you need someone else to step in. And say that happens when you're all alone, knowing that someone will sweep and find you.
Exactly. And just for riders out there thinking like, well, what can I do? Like the road ID, that's such a helpful thing. Because even people that aren't just have some way to write your name on your helmet, and even just your first name, and put it on.
Yeah, most of the time too, like they have. I mean, if it's a race, a lot of the time the emergency contact will be inside or on the other side of the
plate,
the nameplate.
That's helpful too. But that is a very important thing to do. With what was I thinking about the coast to coast? The other thing is just tracking racers. So knowing who's out there still. So I'll, write down numbers as I'm in North Pine River Road. I'll be recording numbers, and then I have
plate numbers.
Yeah, like race numbers.
Okay, yeah.
And that sometimes I've had to pass them and like leave them behind me, only because the next cutoff's coming up really quick too for the at the Big M. So when we've done that, and they like want to keep going.
Sure.
And I always make sure I get out of Pine River Road, and then from there it's all gravel roads. So I don't leave anyone there. But if I get in front of them, one year we had to write down a bunch of numbers and then get to Big M, figure out who's still out there, knowing that they weren't going to make this cutoff, because that cutoff had already happened. It was kind of confusing, but just kind of putting stuff in the big picture, seeing like, okay, how can we make this better next year? And this year was a good example of that. We moved to that like middle cutoff there's like a little church in the middle of nowhere before North Pine River Road. And I think that helped a lot, just giving riders that heads up like, hey, if you keep going, the next 15 miles or the next 7 miles, whatever it is very difficult. And once you go in, There's only one way out. There's no shortcuts there because the river's one way and a bunch of woods the other, and that's that. So yeah, so that it's nice to be able to work with the race directors too. Yeah, and help the race get better. For everybody, safer is the big thing. But yeah, that's
so for you've done coast to coast a couple years, but for sweeping it, you said you start like at 9:30 p.m. at that. So how late are you going then?
We roll in. My buddy Lance, my buddy Matt did it one year with me, but yeah, we'll roll in to the finish right around 2:30 in the morning. So yep, I have a full-size air mattress that I just inflate in the back of the Astro van and just cruise over to the campground and just crawl in the back and sleep from like 3 to 8 and call it good.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's been that. But yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the other races that I do. I got, let's see, Barry Roubaix.
I was going to ask you, why don't we talk about all the different races that you...
Yeah, so we started with Iceman, then Barry jumped on, then Lumberjack for a couple years, coast to coast, and then some of the other gravel races that have been super fun. Dirty Donut down in Kalamazoo area. Cow Pie, I just started that this year.
Okay.
That was a blast in Ionia.
Yeah.
Great race. So Cow Pie let
that goes
out
through the farm and that little...
Yep, through the farm. That was super fun. Lord of the Springs, which is, I think, just a super... If I were able to race a race instead of lead, it'd be Lord of the Springs.
I love Lord of the Springs. I've done it like 3 years now. Like it's
perfect.
It's such a fun race.
Right, because it's gravel, then mountain bike single track, Yankee, and then back onto some of the Barry course, but you're riding it backwards, and then back into Yankee, and then back to gravel. It's like, oh, that's like a ride that I would do just for fun on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's also like, it's not... I think it's 36 miles or something. And it's one of the toughest 36 miles. I mean, I am shelled at the end of that race.
That is one the other two that I have listed. Let's see, I got Moment and BWR.
Okay.
I did that one. So,
cool.
But yeah, Lord of the Springs was one. So obviously I can't ride in Yankee Springs on the dirt bike. So I would love to. Let's just put that out there. I would love to, but I can't. So I drop off the leaders right on Deep Lake Road, and they go into the single track. Then I cruise around onto Yankee Springs Road and wait for them, pick them up there, take them through the Barry course, and I drop them off back into like Devil's Soup Bowl, like that area.
Yep.
Everything's fine up to that point. And then I go out, and then I come back to where they're popping out of the single track again. And up until this year, all the number plates were identical between the short course and the long course. Sure. So I just sit there, and this is me admitting this. I'm sorry if you were in the short course, but the truth is that I just had to sit there and judge and look at, because I didn't know who was in the lead, coming out of the single track. So I just had to judge the rider coming at me. I'm like,
do they look like a leader?
And the question was, do they look like the guy that's going to be leading the 36 mile, or do they look like me, who would just be happy to be out here cruising the short course? And I just judge real heavy. And finally I'd see like, it'd be a jersey that I'd recognize, or I'd be like, oh, okay, like Alex, I'm gonna screw up his last name, but I'd see him, I'd be like, okay, yep, that's him. Or, like somebody I'd recognize, I'm like, okay, that's definitely the first place guy. And then I'd take off and have to catch back up to him and lead him back in, and all that. But
that's interesting.
Nothing the horn can't help part some riders. So that's another thing on Barry. So the way they used to design the Barry course, where they'd all funnel together.
Oh, right.
That was wild. So we'd be coming in with the lead 60-mile group, and I'd be running into slower 36 milers and then the slowest 18 milers or 20 milers. That was chaotic. And if I had a GoPro on at that point, it would have been pretty entertaining, because I got 62 milers that are like ready to start the attacks at the finish. Yeah. And now we're getting into the 18 milers and stuff, and it's dicey at that point. So the new design has done done away with that for the most part, and it's good. But yeah, that's
the year of the tie that you were talking about with the like. I was doing the 100, and it was right at the end. I feel like it was like the last 5 to 10 miles, and it was a spot that my brother was riding with me. He came in from Philly to do the race, and we were still together. And I remember saying to him beforehand, like, there's a couple good kicker hills and before you get back to the pavement.
Yep.
And if we're in a group, like, this might be a good time, like, to actually attack a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you get over these hills or attack the hills, you can get some distance, and then you can just cruise into the finish. And so we're getting up to it, and it was like, it could have been top 10. It could have been, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it ended up being like 12 to 15 of the spots. So
nice.
I don't think we were quite necessarily like top 10, but we didn't know at the time. So
Yeah.
I'm like, Brady, we got to do it. We got to do it. And right when we get to that spot, I think you pull up on the moto, and it's like, it was Alexi and I forget the other dudes.
I know he raced for Abus.
Shoot, I
think
his
it
name
was.
now.
Yep.
So you guys go by us, and then one of the guys that was in our group,
Tried to jump on,
and
I remember that.
Darn it.
I remember that. Yeah, because I looked back and all of a sudden I had 3 guys on. I'm like, where did that? And I saw the green number plate.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
But needless to say, I mean, it was Tom, but I think we ended up catching him a little. He dropped off, and then we ended up catching him. But yeah, that's funny that it was you that came by on the moto.
Yeah, probably honking like crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the beautiful thing. So, not to spoil it, but now saying this publicly will get me to actually do it. My dream is to have one of the European, like the Tour de France horns, like the triple, like like I want to get one of those horns for my dirt bike. I just got to figure out how to get it on there. It's gonna look goofy, but it's gonna sound awesome, and I think it's gonna raise the bar at Barry just a little bit. So just the European car horn sound coming. Yeah.
It's not like, are we watching, what's that? Is this Born Supremacy on?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this a Born movie?
Just gonna hear that coming in. So it's like, what? Are we in the southern hills of France? So that's one of the things that I want on my wish list. But no, yeah, Barry finishes are up there with some of the most fun. So
but Iceman finishes have to be fun too, right? Like,
have
you let out the pros before?
Not yet. I almost did this year.
Okay.
It's just a short scheduling debate we had the night before. Ward and I were trying to figure it out. He's like, okay. He goes, if you lead the pros, then I can do this. But then you need to do that. I was like, you take the pros, because he's always done it. So you do that. I'll lead wave 1, because my cabin's so close to Kalkaska that early it's easier for me. And he also leads out Slush Cup. We get a lead moto for Slush Cup.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, it's good to have that out there just to make sure everyone makes the right turns.
My guess though, the leading the pros, I mean, some of those spots where like coming up wood chip or whatever, that'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
For everyone, but especially for the moto to be the first, because we're all out there just like waiting, and then then all of a sudden you see the moto.
The
and
first
thing
you hear is that moto coming through, and everyone starts going nuts. So yeah, that's some of my favorite for sure. And even sweeping, like the people that are still out in the woods at the end of the day for the sweep, they are having a great time.
And they've had a great time.
They've had a great time for a while, and they're pretty fun. There's a group of guys that we always make sure to say hi to and stop and chat with at the top of, I think Anita's. They're out there most of the time. So, the other fun one is Make It Stick. So the Keen, they have the Keen 10 out there and the drum set.
Yep.
As you and I have discussed
they brought a drum set
in our side podcast about music. I am a bit of a musician, and at one of the sweep years, the drum set was still set up. So I stopped and did a drum solo in like my helmet, everything. And there's a video of that. I'll share it with you.
That's amazing.
So my goal every year since then has been like, I got to get out far enough in front of the lead wave one that I can sit down, do a quick drum solo, jump back on my bike, and then keep going. This year was not the year considering all the additional single track.
Yeah.
But now that I want to get another drum solo in at some point. So I'll make it stick. So that's been good. But yeah, this year I actually, for the lead moto, I didn't ride my big bike, my 650. I rode
That's right. You were telling me this.
Yeah, I rode my my dad's. He's got like a little Honda 250, and it was perfect this year because all the new single track.
I mean, it was tight, twisty single track too. So
very tight, and that bike helped a lot. It let me not destroy the course at all. So that was the most important part.
Yeah.
And still just super fun, and it's Iceman. I don't need a 650 to rip through there, but the 250 just fine. So that was a good time. But what else in Iceman? Yeah, the last, there's always a good group, that last little loop before you get into Woodchip Hill. Mm-hmm. There's a good group out there. This year I caught up with Ivy, the pro. Yeah, she rides for Ventum. And caught up with her around Broomhead and just went up and checked on her. I was like, Evan, how's it going? We're back here. We won't bug you. And she's like, oh, no. She's like, no, I'm just not having a great day. Whatever. She goes, thanks for being out here. What's your name? So we start chatting. And eventually I'm like, oh, well, I'll leave you be. So we'd give her, we'd stop and wait like 3-4 minutes. And we were like, all right, let's go keep riding again. We'll catch her. She put like 15-20 minutes on us. She was like, she got a second wind, but I caught her in Vasa, and she was like, all right, stay right there. And I'm just putting alongside next to her. She gets her phone out and starts doing Instagram videos with us. Yeah, we did stop at some of the final unofficial aid stations for like apple juice and stuff, so it was good.
Oh,
yep,
apple juice,
some Gatorade. Yep.
Sports drinks.
Yeah. Yep, that was it. So yeah, that was fun following her in this year. She had the best attitude.
That's cool.
Out there, so that was cool. So,
Are there any races that use motos that you're not a part of that you would like to be a part of?
My question, I don't know if I want to say I want to be a part of it. Margie.
I was going to bring it up.
Apparently they have motos.
Do they?
I've seen them before, I thought. And my question is how?
Yeah,
how and where? Like obviously like certain checkpoints, I'm sure, but like I'm not riding my moto on that stuff. Like,
I was waiting to
barely walking.
I was waiting to bring up Margie because I thought if there's not a moto, which I don't remember a moto, but I don't know how it would happen.
I don't either.
Some of that, I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah. Your name, no one will get this, but your name would have to be Graham Jarvis, which is like the world champion. He can ride things that no one should be able to ride. Like he could do it, but not Robbie Koets. That's not going to happen. So I'd love to try, but yeah, that's a crazy one. But no, I'm actually looking like next year. I'm like, man, I really enjoy doing this. And like this year I started with Cow Pie. Like that was a new race for me this year.
Yeah.
Really liked working with them. And yeah, I'm thinking like I'm going to reach out to other races. I think like Lowell would benefit.
Oh, sure.
Like Lowell 50 and stuff.
Yep.
I think they could benefit from having a lead moto. They got a lot of crossings, it's a pretty big race, good sized race. So stuff like that, that I see. Races in that area. I'm out of Kalamazoo, but I'm up in Traverse a lot at the cabin, so I'm willing to travel. So
well, it's certainly probably one of the most unique perspectives of these races, the mountain biking or gravel races that someone can have, and I'm sure you feel pretty fortunate to have that perspective.
Very, very much. Yeah. No, I'm very lucky to have it, and when I look back on it and think like, how the heck did I get into this? And it was standing on Broomhead Road, just talking to the official, and they just go, oh yeah, we used to have a guy on a motorcycle come through here. I'm like, what? Like I can be the guy on the motorcycle that comes through here. Like, I love this. So yeah. And that's thinking back, like, and I looked up some pictures getting ready to talk with you. I was looking at my old pictures on Facebook, and there's an album that I put up from the 2006 Iceman. And there's me in, like, you know, my summer riding gear and a light jacket, and just like, oh buddy, you don't know what you're about to get yourself into for the next, 20 years. So
oh, young, naive.
Exactly. So it's so fun to look back, and just the people that I've met through this, it's been the best. Like, Barry Roubaix, my friend Jen from high school marching band. She is Hastings' band director. Oh, okay. So she has her drum line on top of Three Sisters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep.
The Hastings drum line. So, so she's up there. So we always joke that it's our annual meeting that I ride by, and we get to say hi to each other. Cause I was in drum line in high school.
Yeah.
So, we're actually working, this year. We keep talking about having me stop there if I'm out in front enough. And doing one of the cadences with them. So
with like, what is it, like the
quints?
Quints, yeah, it is the quints.
I marched the quints in high school, so that's one. And
that's super early though.
Yeah,
that's so early. So you just have to like rip it really fast.
But Rob, when he's taking photos, he's like, and he's another one that I share my location with, so he can see where to be on the course. And he's with Barry. He's like, the rule, man. He goes, I'll get you a good picture. He's like, but I want you so far out in front of them that you are not in my shot. Cause he wants that great shot coming over the sisters. Yeah. So I always get way far out ahead. So he can get that clean shot without safety Steve on the moto there. So, but yeah, just thinking of people I met. Rob's another one, but Rob, just going through race to race.
He's probably like another, like a consistent person, like in each race that's not racing.
Exactly.
Kind of like just doing a different job, but similar in a way.
Yeah. I keep telling him we just need to team up and just offer just photography and moto lead services together. And then we can just get a bus and travel together. Like, so that's one. But yeah, other people, I'm trying to think who I run into. Iceman, I'm always looking for Tom White on the course somewhere the morning of, because he's like the Nimba Trail guru. And I know I'm going to run into him somewhere on Iceman course. Sometimes it's been like when the real rainy, muddy years, I remember coming around a corner and there he is just shirtless. It's 30 degrees out and he's just digging so hard trying to get the course to drain, to get water off before wave one comes through.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I mean, like, I always run into him out there. And then just other riders, families and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Like Emma Schwab from Traverse City. Like I met her mom at Lord of the Springs because I was waiting for him to come out of the single track. And once we got talking, and then, see her at the next race and the next race. And now it's like, oh, we're friends with them just because it's like, how do you know each other? It's like,
just from races.
Robbie, the moto guy. I don't know. So yeah. But,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. You got a cool thing going on, and it's an awesome perspective. And the safety thing I think is interesting. And so it's kind of like, I mean, thanks for being out there looking out for us.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really, I just thought I think of you as leading the race, but now I'm going to really think of you as just looking out for us. And it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the last thing I was thinking about with the safety part was like moment when it was just me and Garrett. We were on some pretty busy 2-lane highways, and I was like, I'm not doing any good out in front of him at this point. So I went behind him and just stood up and was riding over these bigger hills. And because we had cars passing us, and I'm like, my number one job is just, not so they hit me first, but so they see me first.
Sure, yeah.
And just to break their concentration away from their phone or whatever it is, and just like add just a little bit extra safety. Cause like, I feel like I got a lot of kids I'm responsible for out there. So, and just doing what we can to help.
It is a big responsibility for sure.
It's an honor, and I love doing it, and I'm real lucky, and it's a great community to be a part of. So
thanks, Robbie. Look forward to seeing you more next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be out there. So anyone that listens to this can just come up and say, hey, I heard the podcast, you and Trevor. So come up and say, hey, introduce yourself. I love being out there. So.
Awesome, man. We'd love to have you out there.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
The Dirty Chain Podcast is a Michigan Midpack Media production in partnership with KOM Cycling, the source for your bike accessories and necessities. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirty Chain Podcast. Email dirtychainpodcast@gmail.com. If you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you use to listen. Audio editing and original music by myself, Trevor Gibney. Thank you to Robbie Koets for joining me for this episode, and thank you all for listening to the Dirty Chain Podcast. And as always, keep your chain clean, but get your chain dirty and get your strings rusty. We will see you in the Midpack.